This is Medio Mundo.
Friends, it's great to see you. We are back. First live stream of 2025. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. We're just getting started here. Thanks for tuning in. As many of you already have, let me know in the chat where you're viewing from. Appreciate you guys. Good evening to everyone. It's back with us. June 1st, the official start of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. Coming up in this live stream, I just really wanted to get the Medio Mundo weather community back together. We're going to obviously kind of talk about the season overall. I'm going to give you my thoughts. We got a lot to delve into. We'll take a look at the names of the storms. We'll take a look at some of the dynamics that'll come into play. Of course, I told you guys to bring your questions. I'm happy to answer those, as many as I can. I've got a really special announcement and something new to the channel to bring to you guys for the 2025 hurricane season. Really looking forward to that as well. Thanks so much for jumping in. Great to see everyone. So many friends already back into the chat, and I really appreciate that. Jamaica in the house. Florida is in the house. Some of my subscribers are in the house as well. You'll see those highlighted with their names in green. They have the special badges and emojis. First group of people I want to thank are those of you who have been watching the channel since the end of last hurricane season. I have been continuing to produce daily forecasts here, and of course going to be ramping up the amount of doing that as well. But thank you for all of those who tuned in to support the channel here since the beginning of the last hurricane season, and to all of the new subscribers as well. We continue to grow. Really looking forward to seeing, more and more folks join our Medio Mundo weather community, and obviously we're getting back into the active season for us here as well. Great to see you guys. How we doing, everyone? Atitza Ortiz Hart, one of our subscribers from the Dominican Republic. How are you? Bahamas, St. Lucia, Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, Virgin Gorda, and the British Virgin Islands in the house. This is what I love. When we all come together, so many from so many different areas. I know Belize was in here as well. My hometown of Crystal River, Florida, earlier on as well. Pembroke Pines. I love it. So, gonna wait a minute or two, let more folks kind of jump in here real quickly. And, originally I was going to kind of get into the beginning of the hurricane talk. And then we were going to get into kind of the special thing here, the announcement that I wanted to make. But there's a reason why we're going to flip that real quick. And we're going to talk about kind of the new thing here on the channel coming up. I'll let a few more folks jump in real quick here. Happy Sunday, Sarah, as well. Hope you're doing well. Hi, Diane. Jamaica is in the house. Hey, Jaden, Aruba. Good to see you as well. Island Life 69 from the Bahamas. We've got Jacqueline from Hampton, Virginia. We have a lot of folks who tune in from the United States, Canada, the UK. It's not just the Caribbean and the Bahamas. It's awesome to see so many folks tune in. And again, hold your questions for now. I'll say that. Obviously, if you are a member of the channel and you ask a question, you'll get priority. Or if you want to give a super thanks as well, those will pop up, and those will be priority as well. I'm going to do my best to kind of roll through all of that. Richard in the house from Trinidad. Hey, TJ from Jamaica as well. Good to see you guys. Who else do we have here? Valentino in Nassau. Hi, Miguel. Jamaica as well. A lot of our friends in Jamaica. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, by the way, for taking a quick second and hitting the thumbs up on this live stream. And I appreciate all the hearts that we're getting out there as well. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, look, you can see how active the weather has been here, right? We're getting a lot of thunderstorms right now in the Bahamas and Cuba, portions of the Cayman Islands. Finally getting some wet weather back towards Jamaica. We've had a little bit of cloud coverage and some rain for portions of the Windward Islands. And yes, we still have our second potential area here in the East Pacific for, again, their season starts officially May 15th. So they're a little bit deeper in, but we're also going to talk about, how our weather is going to get more active, especially in our western zones over this first week of June, right? Got a long way to go for hurricane season itself, obviously. But look at the lightning count, by the way. Again, live lightning count here. from Media Mundo. Over 2,500 lightning strikes in this area in just the last 15 minutes. These are really, really healthy storms. Good evening, everyone. Hey, Wayne, Dominica in the house. Hey, Eddie, good to see you from Puerto Rico. Sin Martin in the Dutch Caribbean. Fantastic to see you as well. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate that. Hi, Diane from Aruba. Yeah, a lot of dust as well. A lot of you have actually sent me pictures and videos of the dust just today, right? Obviously, I didn't do a daily forecast video today because I was coming on live, but I'll take some of those pictures and videos and we'll put them on for Monday's daily forecast update for you guys, because they were really, spectacular. I mean, look, you get that haze in the sky, can really make it very pretty, but obviously it's a factor. Anyone with respiratory issues, it's going to be a problem. It obviously can limit the opportunity for showers and storms in your area as well. We've kind of had one big plume work its way through, but there is a secondary one that's already moving into the Lesser Antilles that is going to traverse the Caribbean and into the Western Atlantic with more impacts for next week as well. Appreciate you, Sin, one of our moderators here. You can see he's got the wrench, telling everyone to like and subscribe. Antigua is in the house. Jason, we are just chatting right now. We haven't even really begun. I'm just letting everyone come in here, and then we're going to talk a couple of things. Hi, Aiden. How you doing from Florida? Appreciate it. Hey, Mark. Good to see you as well. David, appreciate you. Salmino in from Trinidad. Love it. All right. So let a couple folks come in here. All right, again, we're going to go over the overview of the season, right? Got a lot of different graphics and things that I put together for you guys. I'm going to take your questions as well, but there's something that I want to talk about to the channel, and I'm going to go ahead and start with this. I was going to kind of wait a little bit, but there's a reason why I want to get into it right now. And I'm really excited about this, guys. By the way, before we go any farther, I have to, of course, stick with me here. Hopefully this, and get rid of that. I have to thank our sponsor of the channel, the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They cover the entire state. They're the sponsor here of Media Mundo. Anything that could impact you or your property, you got hail damage, wind damage, hurricane damage, you have a burst pipe, you've been in an auto accident, they can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Please go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. We appreciate the Lean Law Firm being the sponsor here of Media Mundo. Hopefully, when I hit this button, okay, it goes to the next one. Excellent. All right. So, good to see you guys. St. Lucia back in the house as well. Okay. So we're going into our second full hurricane season here at Media Mundo. Really started right at the end of the 2023 season. We covered Tammy in the Lesser Antilles, but we're going into the second full season. And I told you guys at the beginning of this, I said, look, what I want to try and do is present a forecast and something that is completely unique and different and that you won't find anywhere else, right? On YouTube, any other digital platform, or anywhere. So that's always been my goal. Obviously, to give you guys pertinent, important information with the daily forecast videos, obviously the live streams that we do like right now, or during the tropical storms or the hurricanes, or even our 24/7 radar that we run in and around my live streams of those active tropical systems, right? But visuals tell the story, right? Being able to see things live is always going to be a big part of what we do. And so I am absolutely thrilled to not just talk about this, but to show you guys. Now here at Media Mundo, we have live cameras. We have partnered with our friends at TravelTV.com to bring you their live network of Caribbean cameras. This is, my friends, a live view from North Eleuthera. You are looking at Squires Estate at Governor's Harbor. How about that? This is a live shot here from North Eleuthera. And again, we partnered with Travel TV, and I'm going to be able to use these cameras at my disposal. So anytime that I'm going to be doing a video update, we've got our live streams coming in with the tropical storms and the hurricanes, we'll be able to show you guys the Caribbean network that Travel TV has across the Caribbean. How about that? Isn't that gorgeous? Now, here's the really cool thing. They just had a storm roll through North Eleuthera. It's an absolutely gorgeous shot right now, But as I was setting up this live stream, this is what they had less than an hour ago. And I had to record it because this is why I wanted to partner with Travel TV, is to be able to show you this live. Now, there was actually even more prolific and fantastic lightning with this storm that I actually didn't record. You can see some of the flashes, but this is the story. And again, if you're just tuning in, this is Squires Estate in Governor's Harbor in North Eleuthera. And I just recorded this less than an hour ago, but you can see that storm that rolled through. And my friends who live in the northern Bahamas, you know what I'm talking about. It's been a very active day. So to be able to show you guys those cameras live are going to be really awesome. But we're not stopping there. We've got the Long Island here in Bahamas. Chez Paree. Is it Chez Paree or Chez Pierre? If we're talking about the capital of South Dakota, it would be Pierre. But if we're talking about going really French, it's Chez Paree. Anyway, this is White House, Long Island, Bahamas. Again, you are looking live to the camera here at 7:13 Eastern Daylight Time in Long Island, the Bahamas. How about that? So again, we'll have the opportunity to show you guys these cameras across the area. But we're not done in the Bahamas. We've got one in Cat Island as well. Again, a live look there. This is going to be the Greenwood Beach Resort at Port Howe on Cat Island in the Bahamas. So we've got North Eleuthera, we've got Long Island, we've got Cat Island, and actually there's also a camera in Exuma. Right now it's currently down for maintenance, but hopefully it will be back shortly. So what do you guys think about that? That we have these, what's going to be 4 different cameras to show you guys out of the Bahamas. And again, all live. So when I go to record a video, you know, and there's some active weather, or we just want to take a look at a beautiful shot, boom, there you go. And obviously, at times of active weather, the opportunity to bring up these live cams for you guys. You know, we've got thunderstorms, or we've got a tropical system that's moving through the Bahamas. And again, I have full access to all of these at any point in time as we partnered with our friends at Travel TV. We also have a camera in Key West, Florida. We'll be able to access, if we need to as well, live look to Key West for you here, there in the lower Keys of Florida, right at the end. Gorgeous shot there. And again, we'll be able to look at that. So how about the thumbs up for all of that? Isn't that fantastic? But we're not done. I'm not done. We've got a couple more to show you. This is why I wanted to show you these cameras, because it's getting dark already in St. Lucia. We have a live camera here in Corinth in St. Lucia. This is on the west side of the island, looking back to the south on the west shoreline here of St. Lucia. It's been a very cloudy day, but again, they're far enough east where they are actually at sunset. This is from the Calabash Cove Resort and Spa in Corinth, again on the west side of St. Lucia. Beautiful shot for you there. And again, I promise you, it's a wonderful, wonderful picture. They're just at sunset right now. So my friends who live in St. Lucia, I've got you covered. I've got a live camera to be able to look at 24/7. And of course, when we're looking at your weather, we can bring up this camera and track it together for you guys as well. One more camera to show you as of right now. This is the live look to Oranjestad, Aruba. That's right, we do have a live camera in Aruba as well. I got to take myself off camera. Again, we're getting to sunset here in Aruba, in Oranjestad, so I had to, make sure that I showed you guys these live cams before they got too dark. But another gorgeous shot. Again, Oranjestad, major port, largest city on Aruba, on the southwest kind of shoreline there. And this is from the Costa Linda Beach Resort there in Oranjestad. So there you go. We've got St. Lucia in the house as well. Now, a couple of things. First of all, this was the existing camera network that TravelTV.com had. Okay, I had, I just partnered with them to have access. I had nothing to do with the location and the placement of these cameras. All right. Now, but what I am doing is I'm working with them from here on out to help to build out their Caribbean camera network. So what I want to hear from you guys, they are watching right now. I promise you, reps from TravelTV.com are watching this live stream. You let them know in the comment section below right now where you would like to see their next cameras. Maybe it's where you live. Maybe it's where you travel. Maybe it's a large cruise port and you want an opportunity to see what the weather is like in that area. So drop it in the comment section below. And again, we're, working to build this out. And hopefully we'll have more and more cameras to show you guys. But, these are really nice cameras, battery backups, hopefully these cameras will last during times of tropical storms and hurricanes. But really excited to be able to, show you guys these cameras. And again, let them know where you would love to see another camera. And, I'll be working with them to, help to build out that camera network. The other thing too, as well, if you are a resort owner, right, or you have a live camera and you're interested in allowing myself, Media Mundo, to show it during times of active weather, let me know. If you guys remember, we had Tropical Storm Ernesto in the British Virgin Islands. We had the Soggy Dollar Bar. We were watching, keeping an eye on that. And some of you guys in the chat were letting me know, hey, there's this really awesome camera on Joost Van Dyke. The next thing you know, the Soggy Dollar Bar jumps into the live chat and they say, Rusty, you're absolutely welcome to use that camera. So if for some reason you are a resort owner, or you have a camera, or you have you've put together some kind of camera network, and you want to discuss potentially showing that camera here on Media Mundo, email me, mymediamundo@gmail.com. That email address is in the description below. And again, I would love to have some kind of a master list as we get into hurricane season of other cameras I might be able to tap into. Now look, these cameras, the way that they get put into my system is going to be different than just pulling a camera from a live stream. So ultimately, I want to work with Travel TV to build out this network and to do it, kind of the right way, if you will. But it's always great to have other cameras to access that we don't have available right now in other areas that, that we just don't have cameras at this point in time. So again, just like that example last year from Tropical Storm Ernesto in the British Virgin Islands and Joost Van Dyke, that was a fantastic shot. I would love to have those, kind of lists ahead of time to be like, okay, let's, get a hold of those people and see if we can use their camera and do that as well. So there you go, guys. Those are our cameras. We've got several in the Bahamas. We've got one in St. Lucia. We've got one in Aruba. And I promise you, we're just beginning. So again, thanks, guys, for letting us know where you guys would love to see it. I appreciate it. I'll grab a little drink here real quick. Hey, Grenada, how you doing? Trinidad. Would love to get a camera in Trinidad. Would love to get a camera everywhere, right? And again, just want to do it the right way. Yep, Jaden, I know Jaden would be happy, one of our subscribers here who is in Aruba as well. But again, it's really neat just to be able to, whatever the situation is, to go to this camera network and working with those guys to continue to kind of build it out and do it the right way. And again, we're going to be using both these cameras. Hopefully we'll have the opportunity to potentially, partner with others as well. And you never know, if you, do own a network of cameras or you are a resort owner, it's certainly possible that you could become a part of the TravelTV.com network of cameras as well. I would not be personally responsible for making that deal, but I could certainly get you guys in touch. All right, we want to be able to build out the best camera network here in the Caribbean. All right, so now let's get into, now that I've done that announcement, I've been sitting on this for a while as well. You guys don't know how much I just want to be like, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to start showing these cameras in May. But I was like, I'm going to hold out till June 1st. It's going to be a part of the surprise as well. So let's get into kind of the overall thought of the hurricane season, and then I'm going to take your questions as well. So appreciate you guys sticking around and letting me kind of get that off my shoulders. Obviously, again, we're getting a lot of active weather right now in portions of the Bahamas and, even back towards Cuba and Jamaica and the western side of our area in general. And we're beginning to switch things up just a little bit as well. So the first thing I want to let you guys know is that they did retire 3 cyclone names from the list last year. And they are the names that you would expect. Beryl, Helene, and Milton are now gone. Those names will be replaced by Brianna, Holly, and Miguel in 2030. It is a rolling 6-year list. So the 2024 list next comes up in 2030. And again, retired, never to come back again. Beryl, Helene, and Milton, that will be replaced by Brianna, Holly, and Miguel. These are your names for the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. The first one we're going to get is Andrea, right? Hopefully Andrea comes no time soon, but you know how it goes out. We'll go Andrea, Barry, Chantal, Dexter, Aaron, Fernand, Gabrielle, Umberto, which I feel like Umberto's been around a long time, Imelda, Jerry, Karen, we got a Karen, got a Karen in the house this year. Lorenzo, Melissa, Nestor, Olga, Pablo. Look, man, I hope we don't get too deep into this second column. Rebecca, Sebastian, Tanya, Van, and Wendy. 21 named storms. Again, 5 letters are not used. So you get the 21 named storm for the Atlantic hurricane season. If for some reason we go past 21, we then go into an alternate list and start over again, beginning with A. If you remember, the Greek letters are no longer a part of this. It got a little bit too confusing. There's literally a second alternate list that the Hurricane Center would push into. But I really hope we don't get that deep into it. But those are your 2025 Atlantic hurricane names. All right. This is the average, NOAA's forecast, and then what happened in 2024. I'll take myself off camera. So we look at the average here, and this is the rolling 30-year average, 1990 to 2020. What have we seen in a typical season? 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, 3 of those becoming major. That is Cat 3 with winds of 111 miles an hour sustained or higher. In the middle column, that is NOAA's forecast for this year. 13 to 19 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, 3 to 5 of those being major. You can see when we look at the average to NOAA, we're all kind of within that zone, right? NOAA does predict that there's a 60% chance of an above average season. So the numbers bear that out. Most of the lower side are closer to the averages, and the higher numbers on their kind of swath, if you will, are on the upper side. So, 14 average, but up to 19 in that 13 to 19 category, 6 to 10 hurricanes, 7 is the average. And again, they have at the lowest, they feel like the average of 3 major hurricanes. Now, last year, despite the fact that we had an unprecedented drought of named tropical storms from mid-August to mid-September, we still rolled in with 18 named storms. And this is the biggest thing that I want to highlight, is that well over half of the named storms became hurricanes. Out of the 18, we got 11, and we got 5 major hurricanes out of that. So the storms that developed, they got strong quick, and they stayed strong, and they became major hurricanes in a lot of different ways as well. So again, average hurricane season, what NOAA is predicting for this year, and what we had in 2024. I want to know, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that these numbers are probably going to be close to being correct? Do you think they're too high? Do you think they're too low? Let me know in the comments section below. I mean, is this, numbers that you think might bear out where we would have about 13 to 19 named storms? I'll tell you this, based on some of the things that I've been kind of researching and looking at, I think these numbers are probably close, right? What is an average season, these days anyway? Because, over the last 10 hurricane seasons, 8 of them could be considered hyperactive in some way, shape, or form, either the intensity of some of the storms or the amount of storms that we've had. So these averages will be only climbing based on what we've had over the last 10 years. So, again, nothing that I have seen, and I mentioned this in some of the previous videos in May, nothing that I've seen equates to a below average season. Maybe we will end up very close to an average season, but I certainly don't think that we're going to have a below average season. And as you guys know, it just takes one storm in the wrong spot in your area, right? We could have 25 named storms, but if they all stay out to sea, that's all thumbs up. If we get 6 named storms, but they're all hurricanes and they all go into places and they cause some destruction, that's a problem as well. But obviously, the number of storms gives you a better opportunity if you get too many. So let's talk about kind of what is one of the big factors here. TJ thinks they're too high. Charles thinks they're too low. Elliot comes in with the Saharan dust might be a big factor in the short term, Elliot, right? The Saharan dust is always present this time of the year and is always relatively thick and most dense through June, potentially portions of July. But as we start to see those tropical waves coming off the West African coast and really getting going in August, the Saharan dust is no longer a factor. It can suppress development early in the season. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. If you think there's too many, so there we go. Too low, too high, about what we expect. Almost half of them there. Art says it's really dusty in the BVI, but join the crowd with that one, Art. Appreciate you guys tuning in as well. Thank you so much. I missed Jaden is now a supporter. Thank you, Jaden. Appreciate it. Big fan of the channel. Sends pictures and videos all the time. drops me an email as well a lot. Thank you for becoming a supporter. I've got something to talk about with the memberships coming up as well. We'll do that in a little bit, but something else new coming to memberships right now. So what you're looking at is the overall sea surface anomaly, right? Both in the Atlantic and out in the Pacific. Now, last year we had a La Nina, which was certainly colder waters off the west coast of South America. We had warmer waters in the Atlantic and the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico as well, but we had really, pretty active season because of La Nina. Now, officially, La Nina is gone. We are in what we call a INSO neutral pattern. But when we look at the sea surface temperature anomaly, you guys see this blue off the west coast of South America? We are still showing signs of temperatures in the ocean cooler than average off the west coast of South America. So despite the fact that we are not in a official La Nina, we still have signs of a La Nina. And we also have temperatures that are warmer than average through most of the Western Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf of Mexico already, all right? So when you have temperatures that are cooler than average off the west coast of South America, you have temperatures that are above average in our area, you're already setting up shop for the potential for A, early season development, but B, overall increased potential for development throughout the Atlantic hurricane season. Now, the best chance is that we stay in an INSO neutral pattern, meaning that we don't develop a La Nina again, or we don't slip into an El Nino. But the second highest chance is that we actually get back into a slight La Nina, right? Where the cooler waters of the Eastern Pacific get even a little bit cooler, and we slip back into a bit of a La Nina. More than likely, we'll stay in INSO neutral, okay? But there is an opportunity that a little bit of a La Nina could come back in, and you're seeing that in those sea surface temperatures. And again, what happens in the Pacific impacts us here in the Atlantic with these global, global gyres and these global patterns that come across the Northern Hemisphere. Now, this is from our friends at WeatherBell. We are a commercial subscriber there. Want to talk about something else that you guys might hear me mention from time to time, and that's accumulated cyclone energy. It's one number to basically talk about how strong a hurricane season could be. It takes into equation the intensity of a storm and how long that storm lasts, okay? So based on what WeatherBell is seeing, and they do update this throughout the season, these are the areas where they expect above average accumulated cyclone energy, which would equate into more than likely above average activity throughout the season. They are favoring the central and the eastern Gulf of Mexico, the Bahamas, and the western Atlantic in general, all the way up the eastern seaboard of the United States. An average ACE for most of the Atlantic, greater and lesser Antilles, and then potentially a little bit lower ACE, which would be good news, right? You want that below average accumulated cyclone energy from the ABC Islands through Central America, the Yucatan, into the Southwest Gulf. Now, again, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be a lot of activity here, but potentially could be a little bit lower than average. But these are the areas that we would expect, at least based on what we've been seeing through April and May, that through the hurricane season we gotta have more. Now, for our area, it is the Bahamas and Florida. I would put Turks and Caicos in that as well, towards Cuba, and then we'll just see how this plays out. Couple of things to note with this as well is that, they're trying to go analogous with the season, it was 2018, I believe, where we had Dorian, right? And we all remember Dorian in the Bahamas, over Grand Bahama, where these storms develop in the main development region of the Atlantic, gain north latitude quickly, and then punch straight west. So that's why this area is highlighted, because we have these storms gaining quickly north latitude and then pushing due west towards the east coast of the United States and the Bahamas. Secondary area would have storms developing in the southwest Gulf of Mexico and moving northeast across the peninsula of Florida and then up the Gulf Stream as well. All right. And obviously, from here on out, we will just continue to see the opportunity for more and more activity on average, where we peak on September 10th. So friends, we've got all of June, all of July, all of August till September 10th to get on average the peak frequency of tropical storms and hurricanes. We dip a little bit towards the end of September and the beginning of October, but there's actually this secondary little spike here in mid and late October where just a little bit comes back up, and then we fall off fairly quickly. Hopefully we'll be quiet in November, but there you go. You can see how quickly things really get going towards the end of July, all of August, September, and October. And those, again, are going to be your prime Atlantic tropical wave months. This time of the year, it's things trying to spin up close to home in the Gulf, in the Western Caribbean, potentially in the Western Atlantic, but it is those long track tropical waves beginning in late July, especially into August, that obviously come with the most intensity and the most frequency for you guys as well. All right, real quickly, what are the dynamics of a hurricane? Because I get a lot of these questions as well, right? Like, what are the ingredients that we need, and why is it during, the summer months and the hotter months that we typically start to see, these tropical storms and hurricanes form? Well, the first thing you need is warm ocean temperatures. You need sea surface temperatures to at least be 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius. But the higher heat content, the better opportunity you have to get a tropical system and to get a stronger tropical system. You need winds that are coming together. They're going to force air upwards. So you need converging winds at the surface to lift that moisture-laden air up. You're going to get winds that go outward or go apart or divergence, allowing for the storm below to rise. So you get this motion, just like this, with a system beginning to form. You get confluence at the surface or convergence, and you get diffluence aloft. That's the pattern that you need. Eventually, that humid air rising forms the clouds of the storms, and then the light winds outside the hurricanes can steer it and let it grow. This is a simplistic model of what we get, and obviously things can get a lot more elaborate than this. But for those folks who just don't quite know what the dynamics of a hurricane or even a weak tropical storm are, these are the general ingredients that you need, right? You need warm sea surface temperatures, you need rich moisture throughout the low and mid levels of the atmosphere, and you need some kind of lifting mechanism to get all that going. You also need very little wind shear, meaning that winds at the surface and aloft, both in speed and in direction, aren't trying to rip apart this storm, right? The storms that tend to grow the quickest and stay stronger longer are the ones that encounter very little wind shear. That comes into factor as well. And then here's your Saffir-Simpson scale. 74 mile an hour winds kick off a Category 1 hurricane. And I do have it in kilometers per hour as well. So again, you get to 35, you get yourself a tropical depression. You get to 39, you've got yourself a tropical storm. And that does bear a name. Remember, tropical depressions will be numbers. Tropical storms will start the name. So we get tropical depression number 1, that would potentially become tropical storm Andrea. That's how it goes. Those are your 5 categories. In yellow, those are your major hurricanes. So Category 1, Category 2, take you up to 110 mile an hour winds, or up to 177 kilometers an hour. You get to Cat 3, that's winds of 111 or higher, and that's when you get yourself what is classified as a major hurricane. And those like Beryl and Milton and Helene last year that became Cat 5 hurricanes have to have winds of at least 157 miles an hour sustained. Not just in gust, friends. These have to be sustained winds of more than 252 kilometers an hour. All right. So there you go. Those are the overall dynamics of the hurricane season. And again, we'll kind of talk about what's happening right now for you guys as well. But the first thing I'll do is go on over to the questions. Again, if you guys are a member, and I can see you guys, you're in different colors, you got a specific question that will pop up. Obviously, if you throw in a super thanks, those will pop up, and I'm happy to, obviously prioritize those guys for you as well. Why do tornadoes need shear, but it tears hurricanes apart? Well, completely different dynamics, Brady, in the sense of that in a tornado, it's like a pinhole, right? Half mile, mile wide tornado. When you're talking about tropical storms and hurricanes, which are hundreds of miles wide. So truly the dynamics of hurricanes and tornadoes are completely different. For a tornado, especially like in the southern plains of the United States, you're really looking for 2 different air masses. You've got the warm, moisture-laden air coming out of Mexico and the cold, dry air coming out of the Intermountain West of the United States to clash together to help to form that low-level rotation and get the intensity of those winds that you get. And of course, tornado winds, generally speaking, are stronger in most times than what we have in hurricanes. But the heat energy associated with a tropical system that's hundreds of miles wide is so much more impressive. And the dynamics are different because obviously you're talking about a land-based storm relative to a water-based storm as well. But it's a good question. Appreciate that. Arthouse BVI, best thing for you to do, my friend, is just send me an email. Yeah, mymeteomundo@gmail.com, because I want to make sure that I've got all of that in order and go from there. So yes, great question. If for some reason that you did give me permission to use it last year, let me know in the comments, because I want to be able to make a list and then go back and refer to that when I need to. You're welcome. Appreciate it, guys. Not Tampa or St. Petersburg. They already got. Listen, we don't want anything else on the West Coast. What's the current water temperature in the Gulf? Great question. We can look at that as well. So again, I have access to a lot of different things here, guys, and I do have access to all of the current, to the buoys across the Gulf, the Caribbean, all of those. So let's take a look at it. Should pop on here momentarily. Might take a second. There you go. Now look, you still get diurnal changes in these temperatures, right? And what's your support temperature for a tropical system? It's 80 degrees. Shallower water closer to the coastlines typically are hotter, a little bit more, right? And let me make sure I get off actually the air temperatures. So there you go, marine observation right there on the south side of Tampa Bay, already 86, 87 degrees. Some of these sensors are either floating buoys, or we actually have oil platforms out there for you as well. Let me make sure we get all of them to pop on. So yes, could the Gulf support something right now? Generally, yes. Could most of our area, sea surface temperature-wise, support storms right now? Absolutely as well. Here's the Northwest Caribbean for you right now. I'm actually looking at that one. I don't know why it's showing you there. Or no, maybe I'm not. My bad. There we go. The problem is that my laptop is a smaller screen. So here, the far Northwest Caribbean, look, we went from 78, we warmed it up to 86 degrees. So I do have the ability live to look at all of these different buoys that we have here, right? And you can clearly see, and these are all in Fahrenheit. 80 degrees Fahrenheit is 27 degrees Celsius. 85 degrees Fahrenheit is around 29 degrees Celsius, right? So a lot of these buoys already are showing signs of life well into the 80s. But we would expect that on June 1st, right? So there you go. Great question. Believe it or not, I can actually even tap into ships data too. If there was a ship with a weather station that's actually sending out reports, we can look at that as well. Yeah, Alan, happy to get into the model. Oh, how frequently are the models updated? It depends on the model. The GFS and the European models are going to be updated 4 times a day, with the 0Z and the 12Z being the more significant runs. The 6Z and the 18Z are more supportive runs, if you will. Some new information, but not all. I mean, the complete new suites are the 0Z and the 12Z. Then you can get into hourly high resolution models like the HRRR model, the high resolution rapid refresh. It doesn't have a domain in the Caribbean, but it does, its domain is North America and portions of the Bahamas. That updates literally hourly. Okay, there are others that update every 3 to 6 hours, but generally speaking, for our purposes, we have the 2 main global models, the GFS and the European model. Then we've got secondary like the HRRR and the NAM models, which have different resolution grids as well, and different times that they update. That being said, the GFS and the European go out the farthest in time. The HRRR model actually only goes out 48 hours. So you kind of, contrast, right? Do I want, a higher resolution model, but it only goes out 2 or 3 days? or do I still take a global model and it goes out 2 weeks or so, but it's not as high resolution? But that's the answer to that. Let's see here. All right, back to the chat. When we have the first name Sean, again, boy, if I was a seer like that and was able to tell you, I probably wouldn't be doing this. I would have made a lot of money in like sports betting or something. Is there an opportunity to get our first name storm maybe in the next couple of weeks? The answer is yes, and that's the next thing I want to get into is kind of the here and now forecast. So I will happy to answer that. But do I know when we're going to have our first name storm? Absolutely not. This point in time, the National Hurricane Center is not highlighting any area over the next 7 days. In the East Pacific, they are, right? We already had Alvin, which thankfully dissipated, still caused some prolific rainfall on the west coast of Mexico, but it did move north into cooler waters and did dissipate rather quickly. But on the heels of Alvin, they could have Barbara, the second named storm of the East Pacific season. That is the orange area that you see, already a moderate risk of potentially developing there. Will the hurricane hunters operate this year? Yes, they will. Yep. To my knowledge, and again, I don't have direct knowledge of this, I don't believe that there is any impacts to what the hurricane hunters will be doing. I think that it is all systems go for them. And obviously their information is absolutely vital and valuable. When we're tracking these storms live and they're going within and punching through these storms and dropping those raid zones and getting the information at all the different flight levels and literally transmitting that back, and that information gets put into the model data, that's when you get the most accurate forecasting. So having those guys back in it is going to be important. But I've heard nothing about how their plans would be changed in any way, shape, or form. I would love to get some cameras in Jamaica, no doubt about it. I would love to get cameras everywhere, but would love to have some cameras in Jamaica and anywhere. I don't want to favor one over the other. It just happens to be that these are the cameras that they had, and going to be working with them and trying to expand that network. And any new camera that we get is a great thing. Would love to have nice coverage across our entire area. Any hail cores with the storms rolling off of Florida? I mean, again, we have that Eleuthera camera, which is so cool to be able to oh yeah, man, we got, so Governor's Harbor is right here. So we saw that storm roll through. I mean, look how intense that was. I told you, I was watching the storm about an hour before, and I was like, oh my God, I need to record this. I missed some of the really, really cool lightning. But guys, look at this. Here, back down towards Cat Island, which we have a camera there as well, and Governor's Harbor in Eleuthera, there's 700 lightning strikes in the last 15 minutes. That is a hot storm. I don't see any hail, more than likely, and these storms are too far away. I don't think the Miami radar, which I could tap into, but I don't think the Miami radar is going to be able to show it that far out. But if you guys live in Eleuthera or Cat Island, let me know. Nigel, we are just talking about the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, buddy. We're breaking down kind of the season overall, talking about a little bit of what's happening here, a little bit what's happening there. I've kind of given you my overall thoughts of the season, where I think it's going to be an active one. There's nothing that I've seen that says it's going to be below normal. I think we're going to have at least a normal number of named storms, but potentially higher than that. Not out of the question. Again, we introduced our cameras here live. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Again, this is Squires Estate Governor's Harbor. I do need to get pinpoint locations on these cameras, meaning what directions that they're looking. Like I said, I do know that the St. Lucia camera is looking south from the west coast in Corinth, and obviously our Oranjestad camera in Aruba is looking south and west from their coastline as well. But there is a fantastic shot from north of Luther. Again, this is live right now from the north of Luther area. So we go south of there to Long Island, excuse me, to Cat Island. And again, there's some thunderstorms around Cat Island as well. I do see the waves slowly crashing, so that thing's live, but there's like hardly a breath of wind right now in Cat Island, at least from this camera. That is again from Chez Pierre, or is it Chez Perry? I don't know, one of the two. And then there's your Long Island camera again as well. Quieter view there. Michael asks, are the models frequently fine-tuned for accuracy? It depends. The supercomputing power of the GFS model really was upgraded a few years ago and really made that model a lot better to come in much more in line with the European model. I believe the European model also went through some computing upgrades as well. You know, they're always trying to upgrade them, and then other models are coming online or their domains are being tweaked, meaning that their resolution is getting smaller or their domain space is getting larger. I haven't honestly gone back and looked recently outside of any of the tropical models, but it's a great question. The answer is the suites of models are continuing to be upgraded in one way, shape, or form, and a lot of that is just by their supercomputing power. You know, the ability to produce faster model runs, more frequent model runs, and then tighter domains as well. Lucy, I would love to get a camera in Belize. There's no doubt about it. Hey, Kenneth, how you doing? St. Martin in the house? So there's no hurricane in Texas. If you're looking at that orange area, that is just the area of potential development from the East Pacific season. I'm going back here to my camera live and bring this up. Ah, darn it, I hit the wrong button. All right, bear with me here 1 second. Sorry about that. I didn't hit the wrong button. There's just one button that likes to crash my weather computer, and I hit it. And it really stinks because it's actually one of the biggest hot button punches that I have when I want to show you guys something. And I have to actually just click on it like this rather than hit that hot button. What I really need to do is I need to change that order. But this is the one here down in Mexico. There's nothing that's going on. Now, let's talk about, and it might take a second for me to load up the model now that we lost it real fast, but perhaps, and who was that? Tanya asking about the hurricane in Texas. Perhaps you're talking about the fact that you might have seen some folks discussing what could be happening in the Caribbean and the Gulf in the next few days, and then into the next week as well. So that's the next thing I want to get into here. I'm going to show you guys the GFS, and we're going to talk about what I think about this. Because again, I've mentioned that if we're going to get any storms in June, they typically develop in the Western Caribbean, the Gulf, or the Western Atlantic. The main development region of the Atlantic is still closed for business, right? The Intertropical Convergence Zone is still too far south. We have all of that Saharan dust, which really does put a cap on any of that development in the main development region of the Atlantic. Once that dust dissipates a bit, and we start to get stronger waves coming off the West African coast, typically not beginning until August, right? You know, that's when we really start to see those long track tropical waves. But for right now, it's things going to be developing close to home. Now, in the last several videos, I've mentioned this monsoon trough that has been situated over the East Pacific, right through Costa Rica and Panama, with this persistent area of low pressure in Colombia. All of that kind of trying to lift to the north in the coming days. This is the GFS model. You notice, first of all, how wet it could stay in the Bahamas, in Cuba, and even in our western zones for the next few days. But down the road, towards the end of the first week of June, and maybe a little bit past that, the 8th or the 9th, there are signs that the GFS model wants to develop something tropically, all right? Now, there's a huge caveat that comes with this. And anyone who doesn't explain this is just hyping up one model. If there's any area and time that the GFS goes way too robust with a storm, it's typically the Caribbean at the beginning of the Atlantic hurricane season. We get a lot of deep convection and a lot of bursts of convection, and sometimes those can be very localized, and the GFS model can take that and to make it and mushroom it into something that never materializes, all right? We're seeing signs of development on the GFS model, but again, we got to take this with a really, really large grain of salt at this point in time. What I do expect to happen regardless is that a lot of deep tropical moisture moves into the Western Caribbean, and it's going to start to get a lot wetter towards the end of the first week of June, June 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, places like, time frame like that, for Quintana Roo, Cancun, Cozumel, Tulum, Chetumal, Belize, my friends in Honduras, Roatan, Guanaja, Utila, the Bay Islands in general, all of Honduras, Nicaragua, all of Central America, and then the Cayman Islands and Jamaica and Cuba, portions of Hispaniola, Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. You're just going to start to be into a much more active, wetter pattern, at least for the first couple of weeks of June, regardless of whether this tries to develop. But again, the GFS model does a lot of the times gets way too potent with the systems here in the Western Caribbean this time of the year, all right? It doesn't mean that we just completely slough it off though, right? And you know that I've been watching this area for at least the last couple of weeks. I've mentioned it in the daily videos. Look, if there's any area that I'm honed in on, it's in the Western Caribbean right now. We still have a fair amount of shear coming down with some of the storm systems out of the southern plains into the northern Gulf of Mexico. But this is your vorticity or your spin in the atmosphere, right? This is a composite at the lower levels, same model, GFS model. And you're going to start to see again, as we eke towards the 8th and the 9th, more rotation is expected here. So that would be the beginnings of what that is. Now, I'm not even going to go out to the 14th of June where the GFS model tries to blow this up and brings it into the Gulf of Mexico. At this point in time, that's just going too far with what we have. And that right now is absolutely nothing. But again, the signs of at least more active weather in the Caribbean certainly are showing signals towards the end of the first week of June and into the second week as well. And again, this is your broad spin associated with that. You notice it also picks up here and potentially brings Barbara, the second named storm, into the East Pacific on the heels of Alvin. But there's that broad spin. So again, you live in the Yucatan, you live in Central America, you live in the Western Caribbean in general, and even the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, I would get ready for more active conditions for you guys for the first couple of weeks of June. Because I'm so darn prepared, that's the wrong graphic, not prepared in that way. Stick with me here. There. Because I'm so darn prepared, I hit the wrong button again. These are your formation zones in June, all right? Your typical formation zones and kind of a typical movement. Obviously, they're all going to be gaining north latitude here. Some of those could dive into the Yucatan, but generally speaking, these storms that develop in the Northwest Caribbean slip across the Yucatan and go into the Western Gulf of Mexico, or they get bent back to the north and to the east relatively quickly through the peninsula of Florida, Bahamas, and then back up into the Gulf Stream and along the eastern coastline of the United States. The biggest signal that we see, though, in that orange arrow is development in the Southwest Gulf, which traverses the Gulf of Mexico over the peninsula of Florida, hitting some of the Bahamas, especially the northern Bahamas, and then moving up the Gulf Stream in the east coast of the United States. But again, all the development areas are very close to home this time of the year. It is extremely rare to see anything develop east of these areas outside of the areas in red that I've highlighted, right? Homegrown, as I like to call them, in June. Very close to home. Hi, Teresa, Pembroke Pines, Florida in the house. Your thoughts, one like Wilma. It's always hard to go analogous with another storm that was so infamous like Wilma. Look, all we have to do though is go back to last year with Beryl and Helene and Milton to talk about storms that unprecedentedly got strong in a hurry, right? That did things that we had never seen before storms could do. My biggest concern is not so much of we're going to have a storm that rivals X, Y, or Z. It's that any storm that develops could get strong extremely quickly in the environment that we have set up, right? Little wind shear, high sea surface temperatures, a neutral INSO, or maybe slipping back even into a weak La Nina. Now, the great news is that the signal is not as strong as last year, right? We were well into a La Nina, which does typically support more activity and stronger storms. But that being said, again, we showed you the graphic a little bit earlier where we still have cooler than average temperatures off of the west coast of South America and warmer than average temperatures already in our area. So my biggest concern is any storm that develops is how intense it can become in a big time hurry. Bob Breck, I remember that name. And I believe New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's been a long time ago. I don't know where he is right now. I worked in Biloxi, Mississippi for a time, way back in the day. And I think Bob was over at one of the New Orleans stations, at least at that point in time. Man, that's a blast for the past. Again, guys, I appreciate you. Have a specific question, let me know in the comments section below. If you guys are subscribers to the channel, you guys will pop up in a different color. I appreciate those who are not subscribers, who are members of the channel. You all, hopefully all of you all are subscribers. But if you're a member, I appreciate those who support the channel in that way. Those who put in a super thanks, I'm happy to answer those questions as well. And again, you have a quick second and you want to support the channel, you can do that. I actually have an announcement to go along with the memberships here of the channel as well. But regardless, I appreciate you guys taking a quick second and liking this live stream. And if you haven't subscribed to Media Mundo, thank you for doing so as well. Hey, K-Mac Vintage, how you doing? Hello from Grand Cayman. Sorry you're late. You missed the big announcement already, man. Gonna have to just go back and watch the recorded version. I'll let you in. We have live cameras now. We have introduced some live cameras across the Caribbean, and I'm really excited to bring that to you guys. Well, Randall, I hope we don't get an Irma, but I think Florida is one area that when we look at analogous seasons as to what this could be in this INSO pattern, and we looked at that graphic that talked about the higher than average ACE or accumulated cyclone energy for the Bahamas and the Gulf, including Florida, really the entire state, the peninsula and the Panhandle, that would be one area I'd be concerned about. But look, all areas could easily be impacted by higher storms. But potentially we could see these storms go farther north in latitude before going off towards the west. It's a possibility, but we're so early in the season right now. Sea surface temperatures are still so darn warm that, I think the biggest thing is just the amount of storms we could end up seeing. Marina in the house from the U.S. Virgin Islands. The dust is a big one. Hi, Mark. Scotland. Thanks for tuning in, pal. Last name like McCraney. I got a ton of heritage in the British Isles. So appreciate you tuning in from Scotland, an area I've never been, but I would love to go. I mean, I would love to travel across all of the Caribbean. I'd love to get to Europe. I speak some Italian, and I've never been to Italy. Yes, I'm that idiot who learned a language and have never actually traveled there. TJ, I can't show you the European for the 13th and the 14th. I don't have it in my system. I can pull it from Weatherbell, and we'll look at that. But that's about as far as the European goes as well. I don't like to be the guy who is always showing the 10 to 14 day forecast. And this happens a lot. And look, I tell you guys, and I appreciate you all's support. I try and stay very level with these storms, meaning that obviously the word hype is thrown around a lot, which is why I discussed, why we may not get anything in the Caribbean here in the next 2 weeks, because the GFS model really does, go overboard with a lot of its areas of low pressure this time of the year in the Caribbean. It's a known model flaw. So anyone who doesn't point that out when they're talking about these storms, could potentially be on that hype train. But I don't like to get into that 10 to 14 day window all the time with the models, because at that point, and those time frames, they're always changing, not only daily, but model run by model run. And you could always point down the road that far, right? And talk about, oh, well, now it's changed a little bit. So I'm going to be watching for this little tweak and that little tweak. And eventually, in that 10 to 14 day time frame, it's going to verify. You're going to eventually get a storm that is going to verify from what you were looking at. And you go, see, I was right all the time, right? But just by making those little subtle tweaks to what you're talking about every day, you know, you can kind of wink people into thinking that you're right. So, you know, there is use to them. And I look at the models all the way out. But unless there is something that I'm really leaning on, and there's a lot of model run-to-run consistency, I don't typically go past about 10 days. I really love to talk about just the week ahead. Again, if you guys have been watching the channel, you'll know I'll say it very clearly. Go, look, I'm going to take you out this far out in time because this is what I'm seeing. And I've been seeing consistency on the GFS model, or it's being supported by the European model, or even the NAM model when we're talking about the short term, or if we're looking across the North America and Bahamas, the HER model. But I like to really keep a level tone when we're talking about stuff like this. Hi, Miss Island Countess. Are there live cameras around Turks and Caicos? Not in Turks and Caicos at this point in time. I would love to get some cameras there. We have 4 in the Bahamas. North Eleuthera, Cat Island, Long Island, and Exuma. Exuma is down right now for maintenance, but it should be back very shortly. So we're going to be happy to show you those. Now, again, I partnered with TravelTV.com. This was their existing network, right? But I am working with them to help them to build out the camera network from here, right? Which is why I wanted to hear from you guys. I promise you they were watching to where you would like to see additional cameras. I mean, obviously there's business aspects of that to go along with it. It's not a cheap thing for anyone involved, but we want to try and get more cameras across the Caribbean, right? So would love to do that. And I've already mentioned that, you know, if you are a resort owner, or you're a bar owner, or you're someone who has a live camera, and you want to talk about potentially letting us using it here at Media Mundo during times of active weather, just email me, mymediamundo@gmail.com. That email address here is in the description of this live stream. Again, an example of that would be the Soggy Dollar Bar, if I'm not mistaken, it's the name of it, there on Joost Van Dyke when Tropical Storm Ernesto went through the BVI and USVI last year. You know, they gave us permission to use that camera live. We did, and it really helped to tell the story. So I'd love to have a list of those folks. And again, you never know. Maybe down the road, or maybe even in the short term, you know, you can become part of the TravelTV.com network of cameras in the Caribbean. You know, I would be happy to get you guys together. They're always looking to try and partner with additional folks. And obviously, those who already have cameras available, that's a great starting point. You want to see that sunset again? We can do that. Hi, Yvonne. Appreciate you. Yeah, man, Beryl, look, that's why Beryl there will never be another Beryl, because Beryl caused a heck of a lot of damage from the Lesser Antilles, especially St. Vincent and the Grenadines area, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, portions of the Yucatan, and then into Texas. How many live streams did I did last year with that one? Here's our sunset shot again from North Eleuthera. Again, if you're just tuning in, we now have live cameras here at Media Mundo. Really excited to show you this. Again, and that's the other thing too. You know, it's going to be great to have access to other cameras that I can pull in, you know, on live streams and just to show you guys. But, you know, how we bring in these cameras into my system and the quality and the battery backup and all that, you know, ultimately what we want to do is build out the network with TravelTV.com and to show you guys these cameras, because again, I have access to these 24/7. And they're really, really fantastic cameras. That's, again, a shot from North Eleuthera at the hour. This is Long Island, where sunset is occurring right now. So we're starting to see that darker sky. Same thing for Cat Island. Ooh, a little bit gloomier there. If you look at the top of your screen, nice little, you know, storms over Cat Island right now. I'll leave this camera up for a second. We might even get a little bit of a lightning strike. There we go. Boom. I love to call it. A little flash there from Cat Island. with a storm in the vicinity, as they say. Sorry to hear that, Ocon. Are we going to get storms in the East Caribbean this year? I absolutely would say it's a pretty near certainty. Looking for some good rain Sunday, Monday next week for the Caymans. I hear you, man. Obviously, I do expect there to be a big change up in the opportunity for storms in the Western Caribbean towards the end of this next week in the second week of June. Again, regardless of any actual tropical development, remember, a tropical disturbance is a broad area of disorganized, tropical moisture and thunderstorms. And I think we're going to get a big old broad disturbance in the Western Caribbean. Now, could it wrap up into something low level and we get our first, tropical depression of the year, a tropical storm? It's a possibility. But as I've mentioned again, and I'll do it right now, the GFS model, which is showing that, really does have some, bias towards making these systems too strong in the Western Caribbean at the beginning of June. Warren, I would love to get cameras in Jamaica, right? And if anyone knows anyone who, and there's another lightning strike from Cat Island, who, has that ability, email me. Let's get together. Let's talk about it. That's our live look to Key West, Florida. Again, another gorgeous shot. This is Corinth and St. Lucia. We're looking south. I believe the airport is right here, somewhere in this kind of back area. This is the Calabash. If you guys know this area, you can look it up on Google Earth. Calabash Cove Resort and Spa. They have this beautiful little walkout here. And I can't wait to show you this camera tomorrow, guys. We'll go through all these cameras. And again, I've got access to these 24/7. We're going to look at them on the daily forecast videos. We're going to obviously look at them when we're doing these live streams. And we've got active weather in these spots. And when we do the 24/7 radar in between the tropical systems, where we're monitoring a system, of course, we'll include these cameras for you guys as well. No, nothing in Grenada at this point in time. Hey, Richard, Beverly Hills in the house. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Richard. Hope you're well. Near my hometown of Crystal River. Good to see you. Got a passing shower, by the way, there in the Portmore area. And again, Aruba. So, by the way, this camera as well, I don't know who actually controls it, but most of the time this Oranjestad camera in Aruba actually does this back and forth across the beach. The other ones are more static, but they typically put this one in motion. Now, obviously, we're at sunset here at Oranjestad, and they've taken the camera and they put it to where we can actually see a little something. So it's back to the resort, which is the Costa Linda Beach Resort there in Oranjestad. But it's cool. There you go. How does it look for St. Martin in terms of precipitation for this month, June? Great question about St. Martin. We'll look at that a little bit more coming up tomorrow's video, but in general, we're going to be shifting the best chance for rain from the Lesser and Greater Antilles, where it's been the wettest, and moving it west, right? Because we're going to get more tropical disturbed weather moving into the Western Caribbean, but the dust is going to play a factor as well. In the short term especially, there's another huge plume of dust, which is right into the Lesser Antilles as we speak. So air quality levels are back down to moderate. It's a thing. It's a problem again in that area. As a matter of fact, go back over to the weather computer real quick. I do have, we can look at it together. I do have the ability here on some of my enhanced satellite data to bring up what is considered to be the dust layer. So let's do that. I don't think it's the best product in the world, and typically I don't show it to you guys. There's a NASA product that I typically show you guys, but on my weather computer I can bring that up. Now what happens is that you get the moisture that gets kind of put into this colored palette as well, but there's a bit more dust overall in these purple areas, just a little bit more. It's not the best product. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't really show it to you guys because it's hard to delineate, because we've had this dust work its way all the way through the Yucatan. Many of you, by the way, many of you, and I appreciate it, sent me pictures and videos of this dust. and I'm going to show a lot of those on tomorrow's video. Yeah, not the best, but you get the idea. All right. I had one more announcement for you guys, and it's a way that you guys can support me here at Media Mundo. I've added actually a second membership tier. Okay, first of all, I appreciate everyone who subscribes. You guys know the channel will always be free. But I really do appreciate those who find ways to support me here. Again, you know, reinvest it to bring you these cameras, to bring you all the technology. 2 tiers now. So we've had the supporter tier. You get the custom badges, you get the custom emojis during the live chats. Your names are in a different color. You can drop those down. Obviously, I shout you guys out a lot. That is still just 99 cents a month. Very simple way to support me here at Media Mundo if you want to kind of kick it up a notch and become a member of the channel. So that's the supporter tier. I've added what I call the Team MM tier. And for $2.99 a month, you're going to get the badges and the emojis. But I'm also going to be adding in exclusive member shorts. I was thinking about a way, I was like, you know, because I'm, you know, working on the forecast for a couple of hours a day, and there's something that I see that's really interesting, or in between our forecast videos during hurricane season, maybe we have an intermediate update from the Hurricane Center, or just something's on my mind. All I have to do, I grab my phone, I make a short, right? Just a quick, almost like a TikTok or an Instagram. You guys know how it is here on YouTube, these shorts. And then I put it out. And those will be exclusive for the Team MM membership tier, right? And I'm going to make my first exclusive member short right after this video, okay? But it's just another way to kind of keep even more constant contact. And so I thought that was a great thing. And if you would like to support the channel in that way, become a Team MM member for $2.99 a month, you're going to get access to those exclusive shorts, right? Kind of my thoughts in between the videos, something that I've seen that caught my eye, updates to some of the hurricanes, some of the tropical storms. So I appreciate those who are supporters in that membership tier right now. And for those who would want to become Team MM, Team Media Mundo right here, I appreciate all of those who have found ways to help the channel grow, because that's exactly what it's going to do. All right. You're welcome, guys. Anyone have any other specific questions about what's been happening here? Happy to answer them for you guys. First of all, it's been awesome to see so many of you who I recognize the names. Also, a lot of new people as well. Just going back through my chat here. I want to make sure I didn't miss any of our members. Hi, Barbara. Says, new to the channel, but trying to find a channel to keep me updated on the hurricane season. I was in Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans and Galveston for Hurricane Ike. Barbara, I can understand why you'd be looking for that. I do cover landfalling tropical systems in the United States. Last year, I covered all the ones that did hit. I covered Beryl in Texas, Helene in Milton. The other one, sometimes the names can right over the head when I'm done with it, but that went towards New Orleans. So yes, it is still my plan to cover landfalling tropical storms in the Gulf, in the United States in general. I mean, obviously this channel on a daily basis focuses for Caribbean and the Bahamas. If you would like a daily forecast that I do for the United States, I do have a channel. It's called Weather Express. So I have 3 different channels. Media Mundo, which is by far the biggest, but I have a Central Florida weather channel that I do live coverage of storms in Central Florida. And then I have a new channel called Weather Express. You can find a link to that channel in the description of this live stream below. That is a daily 5-minute forecast across the United States, right? Not gonna waste your time, gonna get in and out, talk about the highlights. And obviously, if there's any opportunity, to cover tropical systems on that channel, I will. But if these storms and these hurricanes are moving towards the Gulf Coast, I will be covering those in a live stream just like that. Jaden, you literally might be the first Team MM member. How awesome is that? Thank you so much, Jaden. Can we get some hearts out for Jaden and potentially our first Team MM member? That's really cool, man. Jaden is a longtime friend of the channel. I think when I first started doing videos towards the end of 2023 hurricane season, Jaden was in the chat. Jaden was emailing me, lives on Aruba, sends me pictures and videos. So that's really, really awesome. Jaden, thank you so much. What will the winds be like over the next few days? Alex, I'm happy to answer that if you let me know where. What is the Saharan dust forecast for Jamaica? I don't have the latest dust forecast with this sweep because I made it for this hurricane special. I will talk about that in tomorrow's video, but here's what I will say. The first big plume of dust has worked its way through. The second large plume is moving into the Lesser Antilles right now. So by midweek, we are going to get a lot more dust coming into the Virgin Islands, in Puerto Rico, in Hispaniola, in Jamaica, Cuba, Cayman Islands, Turks and Caicos, portions of the Bahamas. So there is another plume that will be moving in. And I will highlight that in tomorrow's daily update video. So again, make sure you subscribe and like. I appreciate that as well. My question, absolutely. Thank you, Terry. Randall, again, I don't believe at this point in time, that we have to monitor the Gulf for next week. But again, the GFS model likes to really intensify these storms a little bit too much this time of the year in the Western Caribbean. So we're going to take it with a big grain of salt. I'm going to be monitoring the situation. There is some support, even with the European model, of trying to get a little bit of low-level center of circulation by the end of this week and into next week in the Western Caribbean. But as far as really blowing this thing up and having a true tropical storm into the Gulf by the 10th or 11th of June, we're going to put a pin in that for right now. It's just too far out with a model that is overly aggressive with the storm system at this point in time. I don't want to hype things up too much. I try and keep a very level, head about this, if you will. Don't want to keep looking at the, mid and long range of these models, but it is something to monitor. Again, if we do get development, typically this time of the year, it is Gulf of Mexico, it is Western Caribbean, it's far West Atlantic. You don't see the Weather Express channel in my chat? Not in my chat. Look for it in the description of the actual Media Mundo channel. You'll see links there. If you go to like the homepage of Media Mundo, and don't do it right now because obviously you're in the live chat, but if you go to the homepage, you'll see it. Or you can just search Weather Express as well. My friends in Belize and Jamaica in the house, I appreciate it. Brady's in Idaho. Love it. Actually had a television interview in Boise. Long, long time ago. I love it. You got it, Facunda? Okay, friends, we've been on now for like an hour and 15 minutes. We've been going strong. I love it. Again, I really wanted to come on and talk to my Media Mundo community again and say hi. So it's great to get this first live stream of the season out of the way when we're not tracking an actual storm. But I wanted to give you my overall thoughts of the season, which I think is going to be an active one, kind of talk about the reasons why, what I'm going to be monitoring both in the short term, but in the long term of the season to come as well. Wanted to take you guys' questions, and obviously I wanted to debut the live cameras here at Media Mundo. Again, something that we'll be using on a daily basis going forward. I appreciate you guys so much for joining me tonight. For those who took some time out to, first of all, drop in the chat and say hi, or just watch, or become new members of the channel, or maybe even new subscribers as well. Thank you guys so much for doing so as well. I got your back. I got you covered. Excited to be on this journey with you guys for the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, to give you the information, to keep you guys safe, to get you guys as prepared as absolutely possible. That's the goal of what I do here at Media Mundo, right? The daily forecasts, so you guys have a good idea of the overall impacts of not only what's happening right now, but what could be happening in the future. That's why we do the live streams. That's why we do the 24/7 radar. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm going to go get some late dinner myself. Again, thanks for those who have become members on this live stream. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking the live stream on the way out. I will see you guys tomorrow. We're going to kick it off again. The next daily forecast coming your way on Monday. You guys take care. By the way, no one even mentioned it. I got the salmon shirt. For those of you who think it's just the salmon shorts, which means some active weather, now I'll put a salmon shirt into the equation. What do you think about that? How's that going to work out? I'm going to break out the salmon shorts, or we're going to the salmon shirt. I forgot to mention that as well. But anyway, happy to get that job in Idaho. I am too, because you know what? Because I didn't get that job in Idaho, I actually met my wife. So there you go. It all worked out for a reason. Thanks for liking and subscribing, guys. Have a great rest of your Sunday evening. I'm back tomorrow with your latest daily forecast and cameras as well. And of course, anytime there's impactful tropical weather, we'll be doing live streams like this to keep you guys ahead of the storm. Take care, guys. Stay safe. I'll see you soon.